Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's Fat Potato Podcast. Tonight we'll be discussing the music industry, or perhaps the evolution of the music industry and where we are today. I think more concerning pop music rather than, well, we could always talk about the other genres too.
All music, right?
All music in general.
All music. Get real broad.
Yeah, sure, no worries.
Yeah, stuff on the radio we're going to talk about to begin with. I think it's gone kind of like an electro-pop kind of thing, right, going on these days.
Yeah, I mean, the idea for this discussion came from the fact that every day at work I have to deal with this pop music on the radio, like the same 10 songs 3 times a day, every day, and it's real mind-numbing stuff, and it's so frustrating to listen to, and that people really get famous off of this. I mean, almost every song I hear is just a looped track. Every beat is just looped to the whole song. Your basic rhythm is just on a loop. Your one instrument, you find that sound and you just loop it, and it's so boring. I just want to fall asleep or shoot myself. Either or is good. But I mean, like,
it's pretty formulaic.
They all sound the same, and there's a reason they sound all the same. If you actually Google search, you can actually Google search pop music made by the same 2 people, and you'll find articles on 2 people. One name is Max Martin, and the other one was Lucas Gottwald, also known as Dr. Luke. Most of these guys are credited to almost every pop song that you see coming out.
Yeah.
And what I've read is that they have what's called a writing camp, where basically they get a whole bunch of writers together, they all go in separate rooms, and before lunchtime they have to write a song. And then by the afternoon they have to write another song. And then basically by the end of the day they've got like fucking how many songs that they all just look at collectively, and they pick the fucking best one that they can find. Boom, send it out. It's become so production line based that it's just there's no humanity in it anymore. Sometimes the artists themselves, like the vocalists that get the credit for it, aren't even involved in the process. Sometimes. I don't know all the ins and outs, but
sure.
It's a horrific show, man. I don't know. It's so boring now. It's so boring.
But I mean, I listen to like radio stations like Triple R, Triple M, Triple
everything,
Triple J. I think they're probably a bit weirder and more interesting. But I think it's just like a progression of the generations where the people in the current generations, this generation's music's pretty crap. The previous generation was better. And then the previous generations, that was pretty crap. It's like...
I know people make that argument. I feel like as much as the older generation's music, you could say they also had bad music within it, or even the older they still had crap music, is that the ratio is what's slipping. Is that the quality of music has gone down, and now the vast majority of music we get is the shit stuff, with the very few gems that ever come out, if you could even consider them gems. This isn't even subjective anymore, just an objective analysis of the music itself. You could just literally critique down that these songs don't have anything anymore. It's not about music and lyrics with your verses and choruses. It's all about track and hook. That's what they call it. Track and hook.
I feel like they all merge together now. Like, you can't tell the difference between them. You'd be like, what's your favourite song out of everything from this year on the radio? And you're like, I don't know, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Whereas I think older music, you don't remember the bad stuff.
Yeah, I think it just slips past.
But now, I mean, maybe because we're in it now, I can't imagine any of the current stuff being like in 20 years people are like, wow, that song was great.
You never know.
Specifically, but I don't know.
In 20 years, the taste has changed, right? So maybe they just like that simplistic kind of, what you were saying, like the hook kind of...
Track and hook
kind of style of music.
Like,
maybe in like 20 years, that was the good stuff.
Do you really think people are going to go to a karaoke bar and sing these songs?
Yeah.
Really?
Sure, why not?
Don't get me wrong, the vocalists who sing them aren't bad, but like I just feel like I don't even need to go into the structure of the song and the notes used, but it's just so basic. It's so...
But but I have to say, basic music doesn't mean it's bad music.
No, I don't think a music has to be complicated to be good.
No.
The problem is that when you pick you get a beat for your song and then you get a bit of melody going to it. The problem is that once you've got this thing, it needs to flow. It needs to have some kind of dynamic change or syncopation or something. But these songs don't. It just consistently goes throughout the entire 3 to 4 minutes. There's nothing to it. There's nothing new being played. I mean, I don't listen to the radio much. We don't have any control of the radio station in my work. I just have to listen to this every day. But like when they play the odd song that's got something to it, I can actually think about why this song was popular back when and whatever, and you can actually see what changes in its music. Fucking YouTubers make covers of these pop songs and they actually make them into something because they know what the song lacks. And it's not all that much that it lacks to make the song passable in the first place. It's just again, it's so streamlined. There's just no effort anymore. It's just a cash grab machine. That's all it is now. Henry Ford will be proud of the production line that they've created here.
Because I mean, I don't know, 104.3, which is gold, which is all the classics, right? It's just maybe in some time, 20 years, you know, some of the better tracks from this era would just end up on gold, you know? Like,
I suppose it eventually would end up on there, yeah.
Yes, because, you know, it used to be playing some older tracks, but then they've moved to like early 2000s now.
Yeah.
So,
As in, obviously gold only determines what's popular, and of course this is the stuff that's popular. Whatever hits number one this year will eventually be on gold in the next 10 years or so. And that's, it just goes by popular demand.
Sure, yeah.
And yeah.
But I have to say that repetitive music is also not necessarily bad.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it depends it depends how the song is actually done, right? But there is, like, I don't know, some classic electro stuff is still pretty good, and it's very repetitive. Like classic Daft Punk, it's pretty awesome, and it is incredibly repetitive. Right?
But again, I feel like maybe there's a distinct difference between artists that do it intentionally because, like, but they still like know what they're doing, and people doing it just because it's part of the production line.
Yeah, maybe the odd one. Maybe the odd one, but when every song you hear is just the same repeated thing for the 3 to 4 minutes of the whole song.
I think more of the thing with that is like the cookie cutter kind of formula that kind of ends up sounding same, more than the repetitiveness. Right.
Maybe, but like the problem is to these people, it's just white noise. It's just something to be played in the background. I mean, I look around at all the people in my work. No one's humming the tune. No one's tapping their foot. As soon as they play one song that's come from anywhere before the 2000s, you can hear people sing along. You can hear people tapping their feet. There's a distinctive difference between what these people fucking appreciate. And you could say, okay, yeah, maybe it is subjective, but I swear it's not. I swear from an objective point of view, as in like these songs just don't have anything to them. If a song is repetitive, there's got to be something going on in it. But even the lyrics aren't even deep in, it doesn't have to be a huge amount of depth.
It doesn't have to be deep.
But I suppose they don't have to be deep. It has to have something.
Yeah.
It has to have something, right?
So, like, I like indie music, like folk, indie pop, maybe. And a lot of it is pretty simple. Like, you listen to the lyrics and it's, some dude talking about the sun or something. How was my day? Pretty good. Or, no, not so good. or some gibberish that doesn't make any sense. You read it, it's like, no, this doesn't make any sense. But,
But the music sounds good.
The music is nice. I mean, even my favourite songs, I cannot tell you what the lyrics are about.
Yeah.
So I think from like a indie kind of music standpoint, the indie music is kind of giving more of a feeling and more of an atmosphere than trying to get complicated with the lyrics or anything, or trying to get too complicated with the music itself.
Yeah.
Like, so that it's not particularly intricate. But
the music doesn't have to be complicated, but it has to flow, it has to change, it has to give something interesting to it. Otherwise then you're just hearing the same thing you've heard for the past 2.5 minutes, and it's just, there's nothing to listen to anymore. You just tune it out, basically.
There's songs that are good, I consider good, subjective obviously, which don't have a chorus. The whole song is just basically
instrumental
verses.
You're trying to find the name of that song.
Yes, it was called Dope Lemon. The artist is Dope Lemon, and the song is called Marinate, which I think was a pretty good example of simplicity, repetitiveness, but still a good song.
I suppose it's an example of that, but also the artist is singing or telling a story through their vocals, and it's not really about the song itself, is it? It's sort of something a bit bigger than that. Whereas this isn't just some studio pumped out thing with a maximum of 5 words repeated over and over again on top of a backing track. There's a bit more going on in this, and it would still class as a different kind of song, and I would also say subjectively it doesn't really appeal to me as a person. But I still feel like it's not too fair of a comparison to what we're dealing with in terms of modern pop music.
But I'm just saying, like, the metrics of whether or not it's a particularly good song, measuring off whether or not it's repetitive or simplistic in its lyrics or its
How far can you push
musical
that?
content.
How far can you push that line until it's been crossed?
Yeah, but
You know?
I think it's not about those kind of things in modern pop music, but more of the way they approach producing the music, as in like what
The
it
quality
contains.
of the production.
Yeah,
and the like caring of the people who are working on it.
Yeah, so you have like certain like hook beats in the background. Like the way they do the way they do the repetitiveness is
Bland and uninteresting.
yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at. As in, like, it's the way they do it, not what it is. Yeah.
Subjectively, I'm very much into rhythm and percussion. I really need a good rhythm to help drive me through the music. But obviously, this kind of music is just a simple beat. You don't even have a crash every 4 bars, or you've got none of the basic principles. No fills for drumming at the end of segments. Nothing that distinguishes between your verse, your pre-chorus, and your chorus. There's no intensity, flow, or dynamic to the songs. Literally, your break before the final chorus in these songs is the chorus. Just a little bit quieter without the drums, or without the beat. And it's just like, really? That's so interesting. And now we're just back to the chorus again. You know those songs like, 'Cause I'm happy, da-na, 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 da-na. Have you actually sat there and counted how many times it's repeated that entire 4-bar section?
That was a pretty good song.
Have you ever actually sat there and counted how many times?
That's because it's been overplayed.
Yeah.
But when it first came out, I was like, oh, not bad.
Have you ever counted how many times it's played that entire section? Not just the one line, but that entire section. Another better example was that all the other kids with the something's better run, better run.
Yeah,
Count.
that was
Count
It's
how
the
many.
same lyrics over and over.
I
again.
really like
Like
that
the whole
song.
song.
If you
I like that song too.
It's good.
If you sat there and counted how many times they repeat that one fucking thing, you want to shoot yourself because they don't do anything else with the music.
So I don't agree.
Really?
Yeah.
I quite like that song.
I really like that song. That was actually surprisingly good. Yeah, that's what I'm saying with the repetitiveness. It's not
It's hard
about
to like.
the repetitiveness. It's about how they do it.
Maybe like if you've been hearing these on the radio, then it would definitely
Yeah.
get on your nerves.
I hated it when I first heard it. Like, I really did. As in, because nothing happens in the music. Nothing changes. It's the same beat, same lines, same melody for the whole fucking 3.5 minutes. It's so boring.
There's like a vibe to it, like a
It's
summer
really
vibe
catchy.
or something.
It's really catchy.
Yeah.
I think so. Do you want to listen to it?
No, please, I've heard it enough.
I'm gonna kill Mike.
I don't know.
It's called Pumped Up Kicks, right?
I don't know. I have no idea what it's called.
It's actually on my
My
page
brother
of music
just
here.
plays it a
my
lot.
God.
We can pause it here and
I'm just gonna blast my own fucking music.
anyway. Okay, so now we just listened to a bit of Pumped Up Kicks. Michael's not a fan, but yeah, I think honestly that song's a little different to the regular pop stuff. I think
Yeah, I
it's a
feel
little
like
more
anything
interesting.
that's done by like bands or like where the people who are performing it did everything else as well.
Yeah.
I feel like as a general they are a bit different.
Mm.
Like it's not this high production. It's like people who care are actually putting work into something.
Yeah, I think they're going for that lo-fi kind of scratchy kind of sound
Yeah.
with the way they do the microphone. And yeah, like lo-fi is, maybe I'm miscategorizing it, but it is pretty popular. Like that kind of garage bandy kind of scratchy kind of sound.
Yeah.
A lot of people like that, I think. Yeah.
That's not subjective at all.
No, of course, the music is just subjective.
Not always. Not all music is subjective. Objectively, in the structure of music, when you just loop one thing over and over again, how can you call that music?
You can easily. And
Yeah.
That's what's subjective about it. You can't call that objective because some people enjoy the repetitiveness of certain music,
Fair enough.
especially electronic, right? Because there's a lot of fans of electro music or electro house, right?
But all, like, it comes from like that DJ culture where they just
Yeah.
put on a backbeat and then
When
Yeah,
I
so
first
they can build it and stuff, but
Yeah.
like the bass track is pretty much the same.
yeah.
when I first started listening to music in high school, it was techno music. And even techno music had more going on in its music than this shit that I hear all the time. Honestly. It's disgusting that this is the stuff that people get famous off. It really
To
is.
foster the kids, this particular stuff. This is not regular pop though, alright?
I see it as regular pop.
It's a little different.
Yeah,
Because
Fair
like
enough.
the electro stuff, I mean, I would definitely call electro stuff more boring than this stuff, in my opinion. But that's subjective.
I don't care what the genre is. If you're going to just loop something for the entire song, then that's just lazy. I'm sorry. If you're not even going to change any dynamics about the song, it's not going to flow, it's not going to change. It's a waste of 3.5 minutes. I get everything I need in the first 30 seconds. It's just boring. I don't understand. I don't understand how people can appreciate this. But again, call it subjective if you will. Let's move on. What about metal music? Metal music has gone so far to the other extreme of creativity that now they've broken away from any kind of traditional chord structures or anything that sounds so overly negative. Or now they've also got rhythmic structures that don't make sense anymore. 15th, 16th timing.
What?
So now you hear 15 beats in a bar instead of 16 or 8s. It's like 15 and the bar starts again. So you're missing one beat. Like that's that rhythmic structure, the time signature of the whole song. It makes absolutely no sense. Or it gets worse and they actually change time signature like every three or two bars.
Which is fine.
Okay, like
I mean, it just depends how they do it.
Yeah,
right?
they've gone so far down the originality and experimental route that you can't even keep up with it anymore.
That kind of stuff has been done way back when. Like, most popular would be, what do you call it, Dream Theater.
Yeah,
they've been doing that for a long time. One of my favourite songs from them is Dance of Eternity, which I've probably played for the band before with the ridiculous time signatures, which I think is a pretty brilliant piece. It's incredibly difficult to play, but I think it's more than just people trying to experiment with crazy time signatures and just going with weird beats and stuff. It's whether or not they can come up with something that's good in the eyes of the genre, right? I mean, of course there's going to be bad stuff, but it's just pushing towards something new, right? Because music is kind of evolving, like the evolution of music, right? So people are just testing where they can go and whether or not people would still listen to it. Yeah.
No, I feel like
stuff on the radio is often still shit.
I feel like when it comes to this really, really extremely out there metal kind of music, at this point you need to be a musician. You need to understand exactly what's going on in this music, otherwise you can't appreciate it anymore. As in, if you don't know what's going on, you can't follow it. Even I know what's going on. I've been told what I'm about to hear and I still can't follow it. It's still so jarring. I know we're pre-programmed to prefer 4/4 timing or 3/4 timing, but just some of these are just so bizarre and off the rocker that you can't keep up with it anymore. You can't get into a groove of anything because it just throws you back. Like I don't know. I feel like at some point you've crossed another line to the length of originality for the sake of originality. That now you're just going around like just straight down, just bad sort of sense of music.
But then, I mean, if you're not trying to find something interesting and new, then aren't you just feeding back into repeating what's already been done? And then so you get even poppier music because, but then because it's already been done and you've heard it before, right? So then people are trying to go and do something a little interesting, something new. Whether or not it works is a different thing, right? But then they're trying to maybe, for the evolution of music, right? Eventually you're going to get somewhere else, right? And even if today we don't like it, maybe in the future they might will.
On the most simplistic level of music, we can look at the 4-chord song as an example. The Axis of Awesome did a viral video on it and they played how many 4-chord songs of pop music for God knows how when. Can you tell me anyone thinks any of those songs are the same? Using the same structure, the same chords and everything else. Can you tell me any of those songs are the same? Because there's something different about each of those songs. The lyrics or the rhythm or the beat. There's an infinite amount of combinations that can be done. And now that's the most simple and basic level of just your chord structure and what works in that song, right? Or what generally works, what people like to hear. And I've heard some really amazing original metal music that comes from really simplistic chord progressions or structures. That originality is still there. I know people are really searching for the real originality and stuff. But how far are you willing to go until you've just completely left the realm of what can really be enjoyable or appreciative? Except by only the people that are within that level, within that section. I don't know.
I mean, it's all subjective. I mean, honestly, you can't call any of the music, anything about music, objective. Yeah. Because I mean, I know that's what you're saying, but you can't be, right? Because, you know, a couple of years back, maybe something was absolutely horrendous, and today it's great. You know, 30, 40 years ago, rock music was considered absolutely horrific because it's just too out there. It was too out of the norm of what was currently.
But it was considered horrific from a subjective standpoint, and was considered eventually good by a subjective standpoint.
Yeah.
The music back then wasn't necessarily bland, shitty, looped, fucking repeated stuff, was it? It was just not appreciated, and then it eventually was. Doesn't matter whether it was to begin with or wasn't. As in, the reason why it was hated or appreciated was because of whatever the genre itself was. Itself.
Like what it represented.
I still see a clear distinction between those two things. But, I don't know, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't see the same on that.
I think it depends, like, what you're talking about. Because I don't know, I like music from whatever, wherever. Like, I can't necessarily say I like this genre, I don't like just this genre. It like comes down to individual songs.
I can almost appreciate any genre of music.
Yeah.
I can almost appreciate anything that I hear.
It depends on the song and on my tastes, because there'll be things that everyone loves that I'm like, I hate that. There'll be things that no one's ever heard of that is like my favourite song. And sometimes I like things that are popular just because there's something about it that I like. I don't know where I was going with that. But I think just like, it is, a lot of it is down to people's personal tastes. But then when it comes to the really like big radio popular music, I think a lot of that is the whole like sheep effect, where people as a society we're told that this is cool and this is what everyone likes, and so in order to feel safe and comfortable you like it as well. It's just easy.
And that's the problem. The only defense that people always jump to for this kind of music is, oh well, it's subjective, it's personal taste. And that's all it is. And then you can't discuss the fundamentals of what the music is, because it's personal taste.
But the thing is, like, fundamentally, music, it's music, right? Everything's subjective. I mean, the simplicity or the complexity, whether or not it's generically pleasing, I mean, it's all depends. I'm not saying modern music is good. In my opinion, like, the stuff on the radio is pretty crap. But I mean, you know, if we're talking about like the weird metal music, you know, that's going out there with the weird time signatures. I mean, you know, some people will enjoy it. Like, that's why it's there.
I think also music is such like a culture-based thing. Like there are like cultures around music, and so if you're not a part of that, generally it might be harder for you to actually enjoy it.
Sure.
I feel like modern music on the radio is like super catered to that like like basic crowd, people who go out clubbing on the weekends or whatever, and they play these songs you've heard on the radio all week with like a backing track, and you're like, I know this song. Like, I don't know, that's just the vibe that I get, because that's the majority, and so that's what they put on the radio. But like all these subcultures of music, like arguably someone could be like, I don't like that, that's shit, but it's just not their thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the weirder out there stuff is like a progression where you kind of get into like an entry level version of it, and then you go into like light metal, right? You know, I don't know, classic metal,
eventually.
And then you're like, oh yeah, let's check this stuff out, and then slowly your taste can evolve into something.
Listening to 15, 16 times, and you're like, how did I get here?
And you end up looking for something that's not in mainstream metal, for example.
You look for like the next step.
Yeah, so that's, you know, there's like subcultures and, you know, groups of people that just get really into like hardcore death metal, whatever. I mean, I don't know how hardcore that is, but you know, sure, like it could be like a real progression, starting somewhere, and then you kind of just go deeper. Yeah,
that's true.
I still feel like there's a barrier to be crossed in which you've gone from music to just noise, terrible noise.
Music's just noise.
Yeah.
Right. It's
fair enough.
People picking at strings and
yeah.
bashing these big tubs with plastic over them.
Yeah, I don't think you can draw a line where you can definitively say it's terrible, because I mean it depends on whose standards. Yeah.
Is there like a definition of what music is? Like, what is the bare minimum required to call it music? It's like you need a tune, maybe a beat, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. We can look it up, but I mean, it's hard to say. Hard to say.
Well, fair enough. So that pretty much wraps up that one.